The Safdie brothers caused quite a stir with their last two films, Good Time and Uncut Gems. Have you seen them? Have you seen them? Oh, you're playing that lad! So I thought I'd go right back to the beginning and watch their debut, The Pleasure of Being Robbed, because I remember when it first came out, it was like when Mumblecore was just coming out and I was really interested in that, but I couldn't get a hold of this copy, but it's on Amazon Prime UK now, so I thought, now's the time. So The Pleasure of Being Robbed is about a young 20-something girl in New York called Eleanor. She kind of lives outside of normal society, it seems, but I don't know if that's just how life is in New York City, because it is in sort of bustling inner cities. People can sort of disappear and you can live there without anyone noticing, or you could die and not be found, like that woman in the flat in London. So I'm not sure. It seems that way, but she seems kind of anti-society as well, because she's sort of outside it. She sort of wanders around. You never see if she has a job or anything. She wanders around and she sort of befriends people, and she sometimes just... she pretends that she knows people, so it seems like she's kind of lonely, but she's actually just robbing them for no real reason. I guess she gets off on it. So that is pretty much, that is the entirety of the plot. I mean, like Good Time and Uncut Gems didn't really have plots to them, but they had those Hitchcock tension set pieces to them, so it just went from sort of one set piece to the other. But at this point, they hadn't really done that. They'd perfected the realism from the get-go with this debut, but it doesn't have that other structure to it, so it's maybe less entertaining. I don't know, if you really liked the sort of thriller aspects of those films, which I love, you might not be as entertained by this one, because it doesn't have it. It has the realism of those films, but it doesn't have that. The plot sort of meanders and it's just life. It's a social realist film, so you just get a window into this girl's world for like around 24 hours. Even then, it's not specific. You just get to hang around with her for a bit. You don't really... Everything's from a distance. It's shot in that sort of Ken Loach sort of way, where it's on a long lens. You don't really get that close to her. You just observe her, and you make your own decisions. Like I've said before, that is how good social realism, sort of fly on the wall style films should work, and I think this works really well. That sort of thing, it can be boring if it isn't done right. If there's not really any plot and you're just watching someone, there's not a lot going on, unless they're interesting, and unless what's happening feels real to you. That's what happens here. You feel like you are really seeing another world. You aren't seeing an exercise in trying to make a genre film. You're seeing another world, and there's a lot of observations and a lot of inventiveness in there that makes that work. It's like, firstly, the dialogue, like I've said before, just writing back-to-back dialogue and then having some people improvise. It doesn't necessarily give you the realness to it that this does, and it's really subtle little details that make that stand out. Like I've said before, there's a sort of feeling when you're watching it that you're seeing something that is real. It's not the actors aren't showing off. I think that's the thing that works, like when in these films a lot, where they use non-actors, because when you work with actors, they always want to get to the big shouty scene. They want to show you that they're acting, like Leonardo DiCaprio. Like my friend said about him, when he walks in the room, it's like he's got a big neon sign on his chest saying acting on it. I think that's what goes wrong when you try to do social realist films with actors. And when you work with non-actors or people who don't have much experience, they really play it down, which is much more like real life. There's little bits in there, like the back and forth thing, that you don't need to do the back and forth all the time. Sometimes people don't talk. Like there's a scene in here where they're sat in the car and they're just driving along and looking out the window. That you do get those moments of silence in your life, because people have things going through their head. If they're looking out the window, they might see something and it reminds them, oh, I didn't bring the washing in. Or it might remind them of their uncle or a holiday they went on or something like that, and they drift off. And that is realistic. And when you're seeing that as well, you start to think that it makes you engage with it a bit more. Shit. But it's also the way that people in real life sometimes repeat things, or they say things, they repeat things, or they say things wrong, or sometimes they have a lot of thoughts in their head because they're not just there to drive the plot. So sometimes they come out unformed. It's somehow, like, everything isn't perfect. That's how realism works. That's how life works. Like one time I wrote a script for someone at college, and I gave them it, and the next day I said, "Oh, was that script all right?" And they just said, "Oh, there was a lot of errors in it." I thought, what do they mean? Like factual errors? It wasn't a maths essay. And I had a look at it after they tampered with it, and because I'd written it in Word, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any screenwriting software or anything. I'd just written it in Word and formatted it so it looked like a script. And they'd gone back through, and because all the dialogue had come up grammatically incorrect, they'd gone through and turned it all into perfect English, perfect grammatically correct English, every piece of dialogue. And I thought, who talks like that? Jacob Rees-Mogg. So yeah, the world building in it is really good as well. Like in Uncut Gems and that, you get to see people. You get to see people. And it sort of blurs that line, as you know. I really like. You see people walking past us. Sometimes there's people in the background who I think are non-actors. Stuff like that. You even get a bit of the driving at night with the neon that they used so well in Good Time later on. So you get this real feel for New York City while you're there. During this period that you get to be there. They do the world building really well. The character building is really good. The acting is really good. Yeah, so overall, I thought it was a really strong debut. The realness was there, the window, all the stuff that I really like about social realist films is there. Definitely not as thrilling as Good Time or Uncut Gems, but still a really good film if you like that sort of thing. If you like the sort of mumblecore stuff that's done really well, that isn't just people sat around. There's a lot more inventive. They kind of go to more places in this, and you see more of the city, and there's more ideas. The characters are more interesting, a bit, I wouldn't say quirky, more eccentric. So yeah, I thought it was a really good film. I'd give it 8 stars out of 10, maybe 8.5. And it's available to watch now on Amazon Prime if you're in the UK. If you like the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. And we'll be back next week on Reviews on Realism.